This caught my attention. Kurt Bowles is a longtime writer, Austin American statesman, and he is plugged in. And he just sent out a tweet. Prominent Big 12 source tells the American Statesman the Texas-Oklahoma move to the SEC is almost done. Almost done. Goes on to say that they've been working on this for a minimum of 6 months, and the A&M leadership was left out of the discussions and was not told about it. Move could become official in a week. Well, that escalated quickly. 3 days ago, wasn't a story. And then all of a sudden, started to hear some pitter-patter of a couple of teams leaving. SEC, Oklahoma and Texas. Yes, Seton?
If I'm Texas A&M, I am hurt. Like a jilted lover.
Yeah.
Or something, like, you're breaking up with me? Like, no, I'm not breaking up with you. Like, my new boyfriend just happened to come in. What? What? I thought we had a thing. I thought this was working.
Yeah, and the fact that you don't include Texas A&M in this, I would be a little frosty right now.
I would be hurt. My feelings would be hurt.
Yes. Yes, Paulie.
But if I have schools like Texas Tech and Oklahoma State, I'm like, all right, now we got a shot. Let's go. Clear out some of those heavyweights.
Yeah. They don't even have 12 in the Big 12. It's like the Big 10 doesn't have 10. Big 12 can't even get 12. Now they're losing 2 more. They going back to the Big 8?
Big 8.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Go back to the Big 8. This is what I think will eventually happen. And I don't have any inside information on this. But I did, a couple of my college sources who were dead on this past season with what was going on with schools canceling or leagues canceling. And I talked to one of my sources yesterday, and I said, can you see maybe the sort of the stages, the beginning stages of an NFL-type format for college football? You would have maybe, let's say you had 40 teams. There's 125 right now. But you can, there's a lot of excess there. And there's a lot of schools that they do play, and it's important for their, revenue, bottom line, other sports in the athletic department. I understand that. But let's say you had 40 schools for 16 playoff spots. Now, it's like the NFL, but you have 8 more teams. But you're going to get heavyweights in there. Now, do you take it a step further, and do you make it like the Premiership where there's relegation? Let's say a program, Indiana football, for example, dormant for decades. All of a sudden, they move up. Now, you have 4 different tiers in soccer in Europe, and that's what college football is going to become. You're going to have the haves and then the have-nots. And really, you have that now. I mean, there's schools that you go, they have no chance of being really competitive on a consistent basis. Sometimes you get the outlier. Sometimes you go, oh, look at Boise State. You'll get that. Hawaii one year played Georgia in a bowl game. You might get that, but, Wake Forest is not competing for a national championship. Vanderbilt, not competing. But put them in a position in another structure, another league, another format, and then, you're going to recruit accordingly. Plus, you got these players who are making money off their name, image, and likeness. We're going to have a 15-game schedule, 16-game schedule. I mean, I think this is where we're headed. I just don't understand. The SEC is going to load up on these schools. So what's going to happen with Michigan and Ohio State, Wisconsin? What's going to happen with Notre Dame? What's going to happen with Clemson? What's going to happen with USC? Oregon, are they going to be on the outside looking in? That's what I want to know. If the SEC is gathering all these schools, they're collecting them, and then are they just going to do what? Restructure? But it feels like this is the bigger picture to me would be, I would have Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, oversee the 40. He'd be the commissioner. He'd be Roger Goodell. And it feels like he's already Roger Goodell in college football. To me, he's the most powerful guy in college football. But if you're going to have this kind of outline, 40 schools, 16 playoff berths. How many games are you going to play? We're going to let you cash in on your name, image, and likeness. We're not going to stand in the way of that. And we're going to have a playoff system just like the NFL does. You're going to have teams that are going to be in the Western region, in the Southern region, the Northeastern, the Midwestern region, and you're going to always have better games. Now, you're going to have some schools that aren't competitive some years, but for the most part, you're looking at who's going to be consistently competitive. And you're just going to have the top 40 schools, and then you're going to have a playoff, and you're going to have your version of the Super Bowl, a national championship game. It feels like that. And my source said, he goes, you've said that maybe you have the top 60. He said, I think that's too many schools. If you want to do this and your model is the NFL, then maybe you could get to 40 schools. And maybe that's where we're headed. You could do 4, I don't know if I could do 4 12-team conferences. Maybe I do 4 10-team conferences. Maybe you do 48. But I think if you have the 16 playoffs, then you might have some magic here. And look, let's get rid of the student athlete. I mean, come on, let's stop with that. That's on life support. And the NCAA has basically said that. Like, they're moving out of the way as if they haven't already. But we're going to look at these college players as professionals. And we should have during the pandemic. But I think that's where we're headed. Some players are going to get what they want. And these conferences and schools, you just don't want to be one of those teams that goes, I don't know. I think that's why Oklahoma and Texas decided that, all right, let's go. Yeah, Paulie.
You know, the other thing about that plan you're talking about, if you had 40 teams and Greg Sankey and that office were in charge of it, it could be like the NFL where he's in charge of scheduling, not the schools. Mm-hmm. So he schedules it. That's the best for the fans, the best for the networks.
Imagine a schedule release party in college football.
You know where to travel, where to tailgate. You know, Ohio State's not going to play Youngstown State week 1. Yeah. They're going to play USC week 1.
Yeah. I think that's where we're headed. Now, great. I don't know the time frame for that, but I do think we're headed in that direction. Yes, Heaton.
And doesn't there seem like there's a way to find more than enough money to keep everybody rich in that scenario?
Oh, they're going to make more money in this scenario.
That's what I'm saying. So what are the major hurdles in that side of like promotion relegation scenario?
I don't know if you're going to have somebody sign off on somebody getting left out. But imagine if you had a game and that game decided who was going to stay in the big conference, in the league. I mean, we see this in the Premier League where there's a whole lot attached to that. The amount of money that's attached to it, the entire community that's attached to that.
All of a sudden, you're way more interested in Rutgers' final game of the season than you were any other year. You know? All right, yeah, let's see if they're going to stay in the Big Ten or not, or whatever the conference would be called.
Yeah. I just think we're headed in that direction because it comes down to money. And, I mean, why do you have – it's nice when Ohio State will play Youngstown State. It's great for Youngstown State. And occasionally you'll get, a surprise. But I think college football needs to be honest with college football and say – we just have a certain group of teams, schools, they're always there. And the other ones, hey, you might have a chance, but really you don't. But if you extend it to 16 teams for the playoffs and follow the format of the NFL, I'll ask Brady Quinn, former Notre Dame quarterback. He's going to join us a little bit later on. Yeah, Paulie.
I have the final power rankings of the Division I teams last year for college football. And let's say, like you said, it's 40 teams. Teams like last year, Auburn is 38. They'd be on the cusp. But can you imagine a year where West Virginia was 45? That's a good football team. Ole Miss, Kentucky are in the 50s.
Yeah.
LSU had a down year for them. But imagine one of these schools that's a powerhouse drops. Penn State, what were they, 4-5 last year? Imagine a team like that being relegated. and what that would mean to the
God.
next year at that stadium that holds a zillion people. Or then, then a team like Minnesota goes up, and they get back in.
But how do you relegate, though? Because I have to have the final rank. Imagine if you have the final rankings party. I mean, this is all made for TV. I mean, that's what you have to think about. When you go, there's tradition and there's pomp and there's the bowl game. No, you got to think about this is money. And how do we maximize this and make more money? That's what the NFL does. They're like, we want another game. All right, there's another regular season game. We're going to put in another playoff team. They don't care. College football should, let's just stop with this of what it used to be back in the 60s. Because it's not.
And then that second tier, the title game for the second tier, let's say it's Oregon State versus Arkansas, and the winner of that game doesn't just get a cute trophy.
Yeah.
They move back up to D1. That'd be fun. We fixed this whole thing in one segment.
Yes, we did.
It would be the best thing to happen to college football since, I don't even know.
Herschel Walker.
Sure. Yeah.
Since Johnny Manziel.
Bear Bryant.
Yeah.
I don't even know. Yeah.
But you just have the old guard that's going to say, no, that's not the way we do it. This is the way we do it. No, nobody cares. They didn't used to wear face masks. Are you opposed to face masks? That's the way we used to do it. We didn't wear face masks.
We were disfigured and we were proud.
We only had 5 people die that season, but
Yeah.
that was football.
The fact that you had players who died playing football back in the early 1900s.
8-Teeth Johnson at quarterback. 8-Tooth Johnson.
That the president has to step in and be
Yes.
like, hey, we might want to chill out with
I know,
this.
I
We
know.
might want to figure out all the deaths in football.
It happened back
Yeah.
in the 20s, I think.
It's real.
Was it Roosevelt who stepped in?
Yeah, and he wasn't soft either. You know
No,
that guy.
He was
Yeah,
not.
man's man.
He was tough. He was a man's man.
But if you go back to like the 06, 07, 08, he's like, we're going to take a year off college football and see how we can have less deaths.
Yes, Todd.
If they ever did anything like that, which would be obviously amazing, but how does that affect like the transfer portal? You're a student athlete and you agree to go to a school that is Division I 1 minute, and then the next minute they're not. Now everybody wants a mass exodus and get out of there because they don't want to be with a team that's no longer Division I. How do they figure all that out?
It happens in soccer. It happens in soccer. You're going to have transfer fees here. It's going to be wild. It's already. I mean, who would have thought that Oklahoma and Texas would all of a sudden go, you guys, don't wait for us. We're going to go outside for a moment here. And then they don't come back from the meeting. Hey, is it Texas? Oklahoma? Anybody see? And all of a sudden they get in the same car in the parking lot.
We're out of here.
Yeah.
Remember the other day when this first bubbled up, I took your side and I'm like, I don't believe this story. I can't believe this is real.
Well, the fact, and Paul Feinbaum said that they've been working on this a long time, and Kurt Bowles from the American Statesman echoed this. He said they've been working on this for 6 months now. These are the same schools that you couldn't make fun of down the horns. Now all of a sudden they're in cahoots and they're going to the SEC. Wild. Money changes everything. We love Oklahoma.